What's up guys, Easy here, hope you're all doing okay and training hard. As most of you are already aware, I've been on a weights flex for the last 18 months where compound lifting has become my primary form of exercise. Before that though, I was a bit of a cardio monster for many years where running and boxing training was something I did religiously until I got bored and sought solace in something different. Now that my enthusiasm for training has been set alight again, I'm starting to get itchy feet and I'm really feeling more and more drawn to making fitness my witness again. You see, I haven't done an ounce of cardio in 8 months, and while I'm deeply ashamed about that, I'm going to use this video to set a marker and to start that climb back up to the top of the hill again. So what you're about to see is me putting myself through 20 short rounds comprised of punching and jump rope drills. With the punching, I'm seriously rusty at the moment and I'm feeling sluggish, but I know that within around a month or so of continued practice, I'll be back to punching sharply with precision and brutal power. The progress is something that will become apparent over time. When I say nothing punches, what I mean is that they contain no power or snap whatsoever. The idea is just to get the arms moving and to warm the muscles up effectively enough for the rounds to follow, where the punches become a bit heavier. What I want to be doing is to stay busy and to keep the arms firing like pistons for the entire round. One thing to point out is that with me only doing weights as my primary source of training, my muscles are moved in an up and down or push and pull manner, and when good form is being used, it's like they're moving on a rail in a set line of motion. With punching though, especially when hooks and uppercuts are brought into the equation, the muscles are being used differently and it takes time to adjust. More so when I'm fighting the urge to throw power shots, because when I throw hooks with bad intentions, I feel a real pull where the side of my biceps and deltoids meet. It's a pain that could so easily lead to injury if I were to get overzealous. So it's in my interest to hold back a little bit. For the snap, crackle and pop rounds, the intention is to up the tempo a bit, but still hold back from throwing any power shots. Again, I just want to keep moving for the entire round. You see, when you're in a real fight situation and are starting to gas, if you slow down to a crawl, you're simply allowing your opponent to think, and because nothing is firing back their way, it gives them the opportunity to unload their own bombs and take you out of the equation. Now, I know this is only training, but if approached as though it's a fight, it makes for a much more interesting session. Anyway, getting back to the point, they say that the best form of defence is to attack, and that's so true because while you are throwing punches in bunches, it means that your opponent has to think about defending themselves and are less likely to be in a position to unload their own bombs. For all of these drills, if you don't have a punching dummy or punch bag to use, you can supplement these with some shadow boxing drills. Now, I know it doesn't provide the same satisfaction as beating up an imaginary opponent, but the movement of shadow boxing is just the same, and by punching with meaning into thin air, it can actually be quite an energy sapping experience, and this will serve to get your heart rate ticking over nicely. For the relentless pressure rounds, this is where we up the tempo and decrease the pace a bit by dropping some heavier shots on the targeted area. Even so, I'm not going all out for the knockout, as I'm sensitive to the fact that when I'm throwing hooks to the body and head, and I'm throwing in uppercuts too, it's pulling on certain muscles that haven't been engaged properly for a long time. So, throwing caution to the wind, I prefer to get into my opponent's face by throwing snappier shots that would sting and be annoying, as opposed to being ones that would drop them on their backside for a 10 count. Plenty of time to work up to that one. When it comes to using a rope, this is such a great exercise for getting a range of different muscles working. Personally, I like to start off by doing a couple of rounds using a waterproof jacket and a beanie in order to generate a really good sweat. The actual skipping itself is done at a moderate pace with no frills added. What I want more than anything here is to be able to complete the round without tripping up at all. The great thing about skipping is that you can pick up a rope for less than £5 and you can skip pretty much anywhere. You can see here that I keep looking to my left, and that's because I have a big countdown timer running on my laptop and I like to keep track of where I'm at. If this were a proper full-on jump rope session lasting for about half an hour, I'd be using the clock to trigger a selection of different techs, like throwing in some tricks at certain points or by speeding up the pace for about 30 seconds at a time. It's all about adding in variety. With the sweat fast rounds, my simple aim is to step up the pace for the entire round and to keep the rope whizzing. I'll keep the jacket and beanie on to really get the sweat flowing here. Skipping is actually really easy to learn. It's all about coordination and takes a little bit of time to get the hang of. But once you do, it's something you never ever forget how to do. For the speeder rounds, I give myself around a 10-second lead-in time of normal speed rotations before cranking up the tempo for the rest of the round. It's a case of legs pumping and rope whizzing around. With the double tap rounds, I again give myself a 10-second lead-in of normal rotations and then I switch to doing doubles. This is done by jumping high enough to allow for 2 full rotations of the rope and takes time to learn, but once nailed it's really good fun to crank out. Some people like to bring their knees to their chests, but for me I prefer to keep the jumping to a minimum so that I can jump just high enough to enable me to work my mojo. As you can see here, I'm a little bit out of practice, but it'll all come back to me over time. And that's it, a nice little cardio variation that's taken less than half an hour to complete and has brought on a great sweat and got the heart pumping. Hope you enjoyed it.